Welcome to Global English Tales, where stories bring English to life. Imagine facing a challenge so big that it seems impossible to overcome. What would you do? Today, we bring you an inspiring story of perseverance, wisdom, and resilience. Listen carefully, because at the end of the story, we will practice some important words together. The farmer's legacy. In a quiet village nestled between rolling green hills and a shimmering river, lived an old farmer named Thomas. He had spent his entire life toiling under the sun, tending to his land, and providing for his family. His farm, passed down through generations, was his pride. However, fate had different plans, testing his resilience through trials that would define his legacy. The year started with a drought. The skies refused to shed a drop of rain, and Thomas watched helplessly as his crops withered under the scorching sun. His savings dwindled as he tried to sustain his farm and family. To make matters worse, pests attacked what little was left of his fields. Desperate, Thomas sought help from the village moneylender, but the high interest rates only added to his burden. The once prosperous farmer now stood at the brink of losing everything. His wife, Martha, tried to console him, reminding him of their ancestors who had endured hardships before. But Thomas could not shake the despair that gripped his heart. One evening, as he sat by the riverbank, watching the moon reflect on the still water, he remembered his father's words. A farmer's strength is not in his wealth but in his will to cultivate even barren land. With this thought, a small spark of determination ignited in his heart. Thomas decided he would not let his land turn to dust. The next morning, he set off on foot to the nearby town, seeking advice from agricultural experts. He attended an agricultural fair where farmers and scientists gathered to discuss new methods of cultivation. There, he learned about modern farming techniques, drip irrigation, organic pest control, and soil enrichment methods. Excited and full of hope, Thomas purchased seeds suited for dry climates and tools that could help him improve his land. He returned home with a plan and shared his newfound knowledge with his wife and children. They worked tirelessly, digging trenches to conserve water and preparing the soil for a new beginning. At first, his neighbors scoffed at his efforts, calling them futile. But Thomas remained steadfast, trusting in the wisdom he had gained. The weeks passed, and slowly, life returned to Thomas's farm. The drought-resistant crops sprouted, their green shoots standing defiantly against the sun. The beehives he introduced flourished, providing honey that could be sold for extra income. Curious, some villagers came to see his farm. They were astonished to see that, despite the harsh conditions, Thomas's land was thriving. Seeing his success, they began to ask questions, eager to learn his methods. Recognizing an opportunity to help his community, Thomas invited them to his fields and taught them everything he had learned. Together, they began adopting modern techniques, bringing new hope to the struggling village. Soon, the once dry land started to bear fruit. Just as life seemed to be improving, nature tested Thomas once again. A violent storm approached, darkening the skies. The winds howled through the village, and the rain poured relentlessly, flooding the fields. The farmers watched in horror as their hard work was washed away overnight. Many villagers lost their spirit, considering abandoning farming altogether. But Thomas refused to surrender. Instead of despairing, he saw this as another challenge to overcome. Determined to rebuild, he gathered the villagers and proposed a community farming initiative. He suggested they pool their resources, share labor, and support each other through the crisis. With renewed energy, they worked together, clearing the flooded fields, reinforcing their irrigation channels, and replanting lost crops. Their unity paid off. Within months, the village farms were restored, stronger than before. The community had become closer, bound by shared struggle and triumph. Through relentless perseverance, Thomas not only revived his farm, but also transformed the village's agricultural landscape. His efforts were recognized beyond the village when a government official visited and saw the miraculous transformation. Impressed, the government granted subsidies to small farmers and funded community wells to prevent future droughts. With access to better resources, the village flourished like never before. Farmers experimented with new crops, expanded their livestock, and created a cooperative to sell their produce at fair prices. Thomas had not only saved his farm but had uplifted an entire community. As the years passed, Thomas grew older. His son, Daniel, who had watched his father's struggles and triumphs, took over the farm. With a passion for sustainable growth, Daniel introduced advanced irrigation systems and partnered with agricultural universities to educate young farmers. Thomas, now in his twilight years, would sit on his porch, watching the golden fields sway in the wind. His heart swelled with pride, knowing that his journey had not been in vain. The farmer's tale teaches us that struggles are inevitable, but with determination, innovation, and unity, even the harshest trials can be overcome. Thomas's journey was not just about farming. It was about resilience, hope, and the power of a strong will. He had sown the seeds of not just crops, but of wisdom, courage, and perseverance that would be reaped for generations to come. Now, let's learn some important words from today's story. 1. Resilience, the ability to recover from difficulties. 2. Perseverance, steady persistence despite challenges. 3. Irrigation, supplying water to land for farming. 4. Cooperative, a group working together for a common goal. 5. Triumph, a great victory or achievement. Try using these words in sentences and comment below. Keep learning, keep growing. Thank you for joining us today. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Global English Tales for more inspiring stories and English learning content. Keep practicing, and we'll see you in the next story.